Well, welcome to Astrato Live. Let's see if we have Martin with us as well.
Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome. A good morning in the US, good afternoon in Sweden, in West Europe, and yeah, good day here in London. You see the sun is shining. It's just 1 week more, and then we get much more daylight after this Sunday. Make sure you look at your clocks. I think our friends in the US already changed a couple of days ago, so now we have this weird thing with time zone mismatching. But anyway, welcome to this informal and yet very, very exciting Astrato Live, which is a live product hour with myself and Alex today, a surprise guest, where literally we're going to show you the latest and greatest in Astrato Roadmap, new features, stuff that is exciting, and anything else that's been happening in a world of Astrato. This is a live show, right? So you can ask questions at any time. We will answer them either in the chat or we will pick them up. This is live, so things cannot be edited away. If I, poke my nose, that stays now on the video. So yeah, bear with us as we click through and show you what we've got in check. So before we start introducing new guest, there's one thing that we see, a theme that comes up a lot. What's the difference to Power BI and Tableau? Like, how are you different to that? And yeah, I mean, I think there's one little Google search that I did the other day on Reddit and Power BI, and that kind of like sums it up. Ease of use, and yeah, here's the post that you can see that is the top post from the past month, and it actually summarized a little bit the experience that people have when they try Power BI or Tableau for the first time. In this case, Power BI, of course. So where we're different is, we're simple, we're easy to use, and the speed to value is much, much more simple, and that's something we will never compromise on. So interesting finds, but aside of that, today we're going to introduce you a new member to the team. Some of you know him, some of you don't. We're very excited. He's very excited, but I don't want to steal the show. Yeah, we like to introduce yourself, Joe. And Alex, maybe we can hide that slide.
Yes.
Great, thanks for the welcome. Joe Bickley, I'm a brand new Astratonaut. I'm day 8 into my journey at Astrato, leading the product team. So really, really excited to be on board. It's a really talented team, and I'm very much in full-on learning mode and trying to catch up with the pace of everything we're working on. Very quick background, I've probably been in data-driven tech now for 20 years in one form or another. It's always been a passion. And as I've become a product leader over time as well, both on BI products, but also on products in organizations where data is really critical, it's always been a theme where access to data and insights remains a challenge for lots of users. And so that's really what excites me and motivates me about joining Astrato and building the best tools we possibly can to help connect users with their data. So really glad to be on board. So look forward to meeting many of you soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Joe will join us later in the session today to talk to us about the roadmap and what we have ahead. So starting off, I'll begin with sharing my screen with something that has been a very, very interesting use case and very, very important. As you know, we've been working already 5.5 years with a lot of you and a lot of business users on analytics. And one big requirement, I don't think that will go away, and I think we should stop fighting it, is Excel in, Excel out. Whereas Astrato today is already able to support export to Excel. The interesting thing I'm going to show you is how do we bring Excel into Astrato and into Snowflake. So those of you who see Astrato for the very first time, I'm going to show you the product. So this is the canvas that you can see where you add objects fairly simply using drag and drop, no coding required whatsoever. That allows you with very, very few clicks to create a dashboard without actually much effort whatsoever. And all the data that we're always seeing here is live directly from Snowflake. We don't hold any data at any point in time. You can see the queries being executed behind the scenes. I'm actually not using my keyboard at all, so my hand is here. And I'm going to build a very quick standard dashboard just before we go down the route to show you how we can actually add value using Excel as well, or CSV in this particular case. So I am adding the sales amount, classic sales example. I want to see how my sales are performing against the different kind of product lines, but more importantly, also in the different kind of countries. And to add a little bit of flavor to the chart, we're also going to see how the orders are faring over time. I'm going to use this one on the keyboard just to search it. But other than that, you see, I'm barely using it or actually need it at all. Wonderful sales amount. And yeah, because it's an interactive dashboard, I'll also make sure I'll add a filter here so I can filter by country. I think is actually typically the most interesting one when you try to see and analyze your business units. Wonderful. So this is a dashboard quickly built, fully interactive. So if I make selections here on the left-hand side, you see everything is updating on the fly in real time and associatively. So, and this is the wonderful experience that probably a lot of you will go through when you create your own analytics. But the data here, as you see, is actually coming directly from Snowflake, from the data warehouse that I have been given access to. And obviously, there's some data I've selected. I can go back. I can add more data to it. But imagine if there's something I want to blend my data with, but I don't have that data necessarily in the data warehouse. And I don't want to go back to my data engineer. It's going to take weeks and I'm going to lose momentum. So take this use case, right? I'm analyzing my sales and against my countries, against my different kind of product lines. But, with the recent volatility, inflation, interest rates, I'm very, very concerned to see, what is my exposure against different currencies, against euro, GBP, US dollar. But I don't have any currency information here. So how do I add that information to the mix? So what I've done is I quickly Googled online and I found there's a little easy, simple CSV file here that shows country and it maps it to the different kind of currencies here on the right-hand side. I downloaded it. It's a zip file, basically a CSV, very simple. And what I can now do is I can come here into in the data view where I already have my data as organized, and I can add my own custom data to it. We're already aware we can write SQL, but now what is new and live in production is the ability to add a CSV file. And what very important thing to note is that in order to upload a CSV file, you require write permission within the Snowflake schema, right? And we have documentation how that can be set up. It's actually fairly simple. So we need to define a schema that acts as a repository folder. So I come in here and I have country currency, and I selected it, and poof, I upload it to the mix. I can, of course, rename this if I want to, can give it a different name. I can assign whether this is a string. Obviously, this is a simple use case, so all I can do is, just upload it, save it, and voila, with just one click, I have ported all my data into Snowflake, not into Astrato, and it's now part of my mix. Now, before I can analyze it, I need to create a join. That's as easy as coming here, the country flag, dragging it to my territory country field. Okay, and so now my data model is connected. If you want to look at it from a different view, you can, of course, organize it a bit better. Entirely up to you if you're very a little bit OCD. But what's interesting is you can now go back to the workbook. Let me create some space here on the left-hand side. And perhaps I'm going to, create another bar chart over here. Wonderful. And now I am, of course, going to add sales as my measure again. But this time I'm going to post it against my currency. And it's not in here. 1 second. Just to be safe. You see, this is a live demo. I'm going to add it as a dimension here. So here we go. Currency. This is the one I want to use. I'm going to name this currency exposure. Add it to the mix. Come back in here. And let's see if I can now find it in my bar chart. Here we go. And voila, here it is. I now have basically taken my data and I have uploaded a CSV and I have now blended it, and I can easily now see, what is my exposure against different currencies here. Sterling, USD, euros. Of course, if I select a different country like France, this will update. This one didn't, bear in mind. but in essence, yes, you can blend it together and you can basically now have a different view against your certain data. So highly interactive and basically goes into that Excel in, Excel out use case quite strongly. So that's now available and you can explore it. Make sure you have right permissions. Going beyond of that, of course, one thing that constantly happens behind the scenes, maybe you've noticed it, maybe you haven't, is that we have actually improved a little bit the loading experience. So if you look at the dashboard now, I don't know if you remember, probably not, and if you don't, even better. It all happens automatically. You now have the ability when you make selections, you see that we have very, very, very smooth transitions. So you don't have loading screens and it's actually updating in a much more user-friendly way. So transitions are now there, very, very slick, and of course also meaningful. So they're just not there for the sake of it. You can see the data going up or down or updating. And that's something, yeah, that I think personally makes the product much, much more elegant. So yeah, transitions are there, and maybe Alex can speak more to that. But yeah, probably you've not even noticed, but that's a great thing. We update it every 2 weeks, and it's just becoming better every time. So that's aspect. A little bit, probably not that exciting, but I think it's critically important, is formatting options. So if you come in here, you have the ability to now not just define, but we've added also new styling options for the axis. Do you want to hide the title? Do you want to show it? Do you want to change the color? We have learned a lot over the last couple of years using Vizlib that being able and having the ability to control every single element on the screen is super, super duper important, especially as we're trying to get the Excel PowerPoint people to get to like our analytics solution. So formatting has new formatting options have been added here that you can explore. I'm not suggesting you will need all of them, but if you want to hide the line of it, take x-axis, you can easily do. If you want to hide the text, you can. There's nothing you can't do, and that full control is actually what makes Strato, so very, very, very powerful. Cool. So that's on the feature side. In the meantime, before I hand over to Alex to show you one really important cool thing that we've been working on actually for the last 3 months. There's also stuff that's happening around the product ecosystem. So in particular, I'm very, very, very proud to show you now a sneak preview of our new Astrato community, which is called the Astrato Galaxy. Community.astrato.io. We haven't publicly launched it, but if you see here, there's already some activity going on with some of our MVPs, Joachim and Yogi and others, and obviously Vizlib employees here. So basically a form that integrates with your product ID. So if you have an Astrato account, you have a community account. If you have it, so basically you don't need to register and sign up twice. Interlinks nicely. And the reason we want to bring you here is because we not just love working with you, and we want to give you a platform where you can exchange ideas, where you can ask questions, help each other, not just on the Astrato side, but potentially even like, how do I create this table? How do I create this sequel? I'm a strong believer in crowdsourcing and people helping each other. And this community here is now the platform that will enable everybody to contribute, to answer, to ask questions, but not just questions, answers, but also feature requests. If you have an idea that you would like us to implement, of course, reach out to us. But wouldn't it be nicer if you post it and have others brainstorm with you? And then we can also see, hey, you know what? Filter or measure is something that Joachim is really interested in. And so many people have upvoted it. So obviously, we see this is much more important than maybe just Joachim himself wanting it, if you see what I mean. And the last bit is here, and this is where we're working on, is we want to create a gallery, a place for the community to show and tell their work. And this is where the inspiration section comes in. Here, people can show and showcase examples of what they've built, get feedback, Kobe dashboard just for inspiration. So this is something Joachim has built where you can ask him how he did it, how he achieved certain things, and basically use it as a repertoire for yourself as well. We'll have an interesting roadmap of what we want to do with this, like a little community and competitions and other bits. But yeah, that's something that we'll sincerely invite you to come in, join, participate, and last but not least, no participation or activity in the community is in vain. Very important. Everything is being recorded in terms of points. There is a top list. There is an all-time leaders. At the moment, there are some Astrato employees here. They'll be excluded. And then we'll do a monthly Astrato of the month. So get excited. It's going to be competitive, but more importantly, fun. And I'm very, very excited to invite you to join us. Speaking about community, well, there's another interesting thing we launched. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's something going on on LinkedIn where people are posting they got an Astrato certification. What does this even mean? Where does this come from? So let me perhaps open up Emily's account, because she recently completed it. And voila, look here. She earned her first Astrato Analytics Foundation badge. Have you? Wow. So what is this? How do I get a badge? Well, we have a learning platform, which you find here under learning.vizlib.com. We will find an Astrato version as well, URL as well, very, very soon. And over here, you can create an account and you can participate in our courses that we will be introducing very, very shortly, more and more. But we already have 2 of them, one for Vizlib, one for Astrato. And I highly encourage you guys to sign up and participate and start with the Astrato Essential course, which will go through how to use Astrato, but more importantly, how to create your own workbook, and it will ask you to submit one. So get excited and showcase, obviously your badge when you complete it, and get excited about all the many more things that we'll be introducing on that side. Wonderful. And so that's pretty much from my side. Of course, yeah, one last bit. Actually, yes, I got a note. Not that it matters, but we're very proud about this and we want to advertise it. Snowflake Summit, we are going to be there in Vegas on June 13th to 16th. I'm going to be there. So yeah, it's going to be very, very entertaining. So I'd love to meet some of you or as many of you as I can possibly. And, I'm very excited to say that we have been upgraded on our sponsorship level. So we are not at the top level, but the 3rd from the top. And we're very, very, very proud about that recognition. And yeah, very excited to be here and, showcase Astrato with a big splash. And we have a very, very exciting roadmap on what we want to showcase by that time. But yeah, with this, that's all from my side. And yeah, can't wait what Alex has up on his sleeves to show.
Yeah, we have a lot of good fun stuff to show. I did see, however, that we got a comment in from Mark there that he wished he had an Astrato account, and I'm happy to announce that anyone can get an Astrato account. You can easily go to astrato.io and sign up. It's always going to be perpetually free. There's no time limits for the first 5 users. And you get all of the functionality that any of our paying customers get. So we still believe firmly in the fact that everybody should be able to sign up and actually start using the product directly in its full shape and form. So
I just got a note that I hope nobody's listening about what Alex just said. But if you do, please keep it to yourself.
So
Sorry.
Yep. We'll we have a few different things that we want to show you guys today. Some of the things that are currently available in the product, and some of the things that are currently available to our what we call kind of early adopter customers. So if you have been using Astrato and you are interested in sort of the latest and greatest features, do let us know, because then we can toggle that on for you. So we have a little bit of a grace period where we sanity test our features before we ship them out. So if you want to be part of that little elite click, then just let us know, and we can definitely include you guys as well. So we are going to look at today at what we call embeddability. We're going to look at different things around object layer management, as we call it, and a few little nifty things that we shipped along the way. So let me just pull this in here. And Martin did show you the initial things around transitions. So as you saw that Martin was clicking around on the screen, the different visualizations were animating up and down, data points were coming in. And this is something that we are continuously working on. So this is the version 1, what we call of transitions. And it's not only about making things look pretty on the screen. It has a lot of cognitive science behind it on how the human mind can process change within data points. So one of the absolute biggest things is when you are selecting within your data and different data points and the data changes, it's not just enough to show a static screen of sort of a before and an after picture. Instead, we actually want you to highlight how things have transitioned, and as new data points come in, how we can highlight those. So what we have shipped so far is the very capable version 1 of transitions and animations. But we are also looking to do things like highlighting axis changes and other visual components that will help people analyze data better. In addition to this, we've also launched what we call embeds. And embeds for us has been a fairly long-running project. It's about coming up on 3 months now. And what this allows us to do is to take Astrato assets from anywhere, or Astrato assets, and put them anywhere, either behind your own kind of corporate authentication, or you can publish them collectively onto the web or to any type of third party that you might have that might be interested in your type of data. So if you come into a collection here, we can take a look at a application. So in this case, we have a sales dashboard. And if I come in, we can actually, well, oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. That's fine. There we go. So I already had a draft here created. So this is a sales dashboard that we have since before. And if you bear with my very, very slow Wi-Fi here today, it will hopefully load. Unless I also have one of those fun, yep, don't leave your computer unattended for too long, because then this happens. Anyways, let's come back to the sales dashboard. So this is the sales dashboard that we had before. So this is in its published state. So whenever I'm done working on my dashboard, I can now publish it for other users to take part of, and I can know that this published state of my dashboard is, you know, kind of version controlled, and it's retained, and it's secured. And from this state, anywhere inside of the dashboard, you can either click individual objects, or you can click what we call groups. So you can take multiple objects and group them together into a single group, or you can actually interact with the sheet itself. And in this case, maybe I want to take this group where we have assembled a few text objects, a few different KPIs, a nice little line chart here, and a table. And from here, I can come in and I can say, either I want to embed sort of this object, or I can take the group, or I can take the entire sheet. This little dialogue is something that is still kind of work in progress. And I can define who's going to be able to view this link, or I can say that it's going to be external. So in this case, we'll take it as external. Either I can copy the embed code straight away if I just want to put it on a website somewhere, or share it in a blog post, or somewhere else, or I can come and just take this little URL here. And of course, I can just paste it into my browser, and it will be instantly available for me to view. And the beauty of this is when you can actually take a lot of these different objects and assemble them together, you can almost build like small little micro UIs, and then you can take these UIs and stick them somewhere else. Because if there's one thing that you're usually struggling with when it comes to analytics, is the fact that how do you get your users to use it, right? And a very good way of getting there is to take your analytics to where the users usually are. So if they're using something like HubSpot or Salesforce, or if they have an intranet in Confluence or something along those lines, the demo ghost is real today. You can take these small little things and then actually put them into your different areas. So if I can come back in here, have I lost my entire session? Maybe I have. I have timed out, I think. Anyways, so for example, you can come into something like Confluence if you're using that for documentation, and maybe we can create a page. We can come in here as it loads, and maybe we can add in a iframe, for example, a little iframe widget. We can stick in a little URL, and it should render. And now from here on, I can style it, make it a little bit bigger, so it's actually going to scale a little bit nicer, because now it's way too small to actually make any sense. And of course, the step next for us when it comes to embeddability is to also start supporting things like external filters and controls, so that you, from your external pages and systems, can actually interact also together with these small components. And it wouldn't be embeddability with also actually shipping security. So if you have administrative access inside of Astrato, you can come into the administration panel. And from here, you can, of course, now also manage your different embed links. and you can either copy all of the codes that we've seen before, so you can always come back to them, and you can manage and actually track also usage of your different embed links as well. So if you can, maybe you want to clean up the system, and you can see the amount of use that has happened on them, and actually see how they're used in the different systems. From here on, you can also, of course, have allow lists. So you don't want perhaps your users to embed your content in any type of system. So you can also lock this down if you choose to do so. And of course, you can opt out of the entire feature if this isn't something that you actually want to have. So that was a little bit short on embeds. It's currently available for our kind of early access customers. So it will ship in the next couple of weeks out to the general availability. So if you want to be part of that, just let us know and we can include you. Other than just embeds, what we've also done, and I think we showcased it a little bit on a previous call as well, is the ability to start controlling your assets a little bit. And so we've listened a lot to our early customers, and we're seeing them creating very, very advanced dashboards with loads and loads of objects on top of them. So transitions and the loading indicators was one of the very early feedbacks that has now been incorporated into the product. Another one was that when you are actually working on a dashboard that starts becoming complex, perhaps when you started working with it, let's see if this works now. Yay. Or maybe not. This is what you get for demoing without testing it first. There we go. So when you are starting working with your dashboards, after a while, they grow over time and become quite complex. What we have seen is that it isn't actually unusual for people to have upwards, 40, 60, 80 different objects on top of a dashboard. And it gets very, very hard to control, especially when you have multiple layers, and it's hard to send things backwards and forwards and jump in between. So we have introduced the ability for our customers to come in here, click on the little sheet icon on the side, and you can now actually see all of your different objects that do exist on top of the screen here. So I'm just going to pop myself out of the view here so you get a little bit of better view of the screen. On the left-hand side here, you can see we have a group of objects that has a various number of objects in that group. We can, of course, interact with any of these, and you'll see the properties panel kind of changing as we go through. So you can very fast kind of go through and iteratively change these things as we go. And, right now, as you see, this is a panel that kind of slides in from the left-hand side, which is nice, but it can be a little bit annoying if you have objects kind of sitting underneath this. So at any point in time, you can, of course, always come in and kind of say, yeah, just undock this menu, and now you get a free-floating menu that you can move around, so it isn't in the way of your different analysis. So I find myself kind of always having this up and just moving it around to quickly access my different objects, changing my different properties. And I've really seen that, the speed at which I can create dashboards has really gone up. So despite the fact that I have very, very complex dashboards, I'm not hindered by the fact that they're complex in terms of development speed. So this has become a great tool, at least for me, to very quickly iterate between different objects and tweak different settings and go back and forth without having way too many displays coming in around that. So that was a little bit about sheet layer management. So I would say these are the absolute two biggest features that we've shipped over the last couple of weeks. So embeds and object layer management in conjunction with transitions and animations. If you have play with Astrato, you will notice that we do ship a lot of smaller improvements and a lot of smaller fixes and smaller features around the platform. We won't have time, sadly, today to cover all of them. So we're trying to stick to the main topics. And what we'll also do is give you a small little teaser of things to come, if I manage to get over to my other screen here. So if we come back to our little slide deck. So we have a long-running project, and we have been talking about it before as well. But we do like to come back every month and so and give you a short little update on where we are with a feature. And we firmly believe that as we're developing features, we don't do that alone in the basement somewhere and then re-emerge a few months later with something nobody's ever seen before. So we do want to involve our customers and our users as early as possible into the process. So in this case, we've been working on what we call actions and controls. And actions and controls for us is a way to manage complexities within a dashboard and to be able to build business processes and different flows that you might encounter. And of course, you could take the easy cop-out route here and just say, this is a button, and you have a little trigger, and when I click this button, something happens. We said that's great. That will keep our users happy for about 5 minutes, but no longer than that. So we took the little bit more complex route here. So understandably, this looked a little bit confusing. But we are building in a visual programming language now into your dashboards. So you can sort of see it up here on the different screenshots, where you can assemble different building blocks from various different categories, such as different controls, or you can listen to and react to different types of events that might happen in your dashboards. And depending on those events, you might want to do some logic gates, and then you can actually start performing some different actions. So in conjunction with it, then we're also, of course, launching variables. So you can also offload different things here. So you can build very complex flows and say things like, whenever I click on a button, I want to toggle a state in a variable. And I want to have 4 different pop-ups listening to this variable state change. And when that variable state change happens, I want a overlay to come up, for example, so that you as an author can, for your users, build things like very nice help layers inside of your dashboards that can show up. You can build in learning materials into your dashboards. You can make them very intuitive to guide them and help them, go down a specific path of analysis, for example. So this is something that we are continuously working on. So I wanted to show you a few of the different screenshots that has been coming in over the last couple of years, or last couple of months. So this is the current visual design. It might change, but we're hoping to have something general availability by sort of midsummer, early summer, along these lines. So that was a short teaser on actions. And with that, I think I might forcefully just pull the rest of the crew back into the stream.
Wonderful, Alex. I love it. One very fun fact that Francesco, before we go into the roadmap, really 2 things I actually managed to pop up. So if you can share my screen, that'll be great. Very, very fun. In LinkedIn, it has live translating. So whenever you say embeds, it's translating to embeds. So who are you in bed with, Alex? All the time.
Oh yeah, that's an answer for a different time, I think. So
right, really brief, mini little feature, but just so you're aware of it, line charts, trend analysis. So what we do is, what was very, very successful in the world of Vizlib, we now have the ability, if you go into the measure, you have the ability to add now a trend line to this. And that trend line can be, obviously styled. You have a lot of options around it. But more importantly, you have the ability to change the style, to make it an average, exponential, logarithmic, polynomial. And we're looking also to expand that to give you some kind of linear forecasting as well of, your data points. So yeah, that's a little tiny thing that we added, never goes unnoticed. And the other perhaps bigger thing, but definitely worth mentioning for some of you who not just use Snowflake, we also have a new data source, a data point, which is let me open the. By the way, our dashboard I love a lot, created by the industry solutions team, and it just shows the heavy, the power of customization that we actually are enabling users to achieve. And it's really beautiful, and especially with the transitions, looks super smooth. I'm a fan. I don't want to connect to there. Let me connect to the fun, and if you go to the data sources, you now actually have the ability to connect to your Postgres database. So if you have something that you want to visualize on top of Postgres, it works in the same way like in Snowflake. It's SQL. It's fully supported. Probably not as fast as Snowflake, but maybe you don't need that, or you're not too worried about that much. So yeah, if you have a Postgres database you want to connect to and use Astrato on top of it, you can do that. It's now available in production. Go for it. Wonderful. Thank you very much. And with this, handing over to Joe Bickley for the finale.
Thank you, Martin. So so in terms of our roadmap, so it was a fun exercise earlier this week, being able to move everything a column to the left, because the pace of the items coming out of the roadmap is really high, and we've touched on some of the short-term things on this already. So they're either almost released or they're really kind of developing well, and we'll be able to get these out in the next few weeks. Beyond that, we're looking into sort of a small number of months and generally a relatively short tail on the roadmap as well. So everything we're going to talk about right now is generally things we're pretty confident on. We know where we're going with some of these things. So I'll give a pretty quick run through of some of the highlights, and I'll just group it by 4 kind of key areas of the product. So in terms of authoring workflow, so how we're enabling creators to build really compelling experiences with data. We had a little sneak preview with Alex around actions and logic, and related to that is variables. So how do we allow you to build more guided experiences through the product to get users in the right place with their data? So that's a key focus for us in that area right now. And then moving out a little further for that area, we're looking at improving some of the theming capabilities, having things like version control. So when you have more teams working on the same content, you can do that in a more manageable way. And then looking also across both medium and long term around how you can control more of the sheet layout in terms of both the ratios, so the size of it, but also things like scrollability within the sheets to make sure that it's giving you the best result for the target audience and the target applications you have. And then also within the longer term bucket, we're also looking at shared resources. So when you're creating assets, that you want to be able to reuse them, and a lot more flexibility, again, speeding up that redevelopment process essentially for lots of your content, and putting in more kind of demo and creative assets to help explain the product too. So on the platform side, and platform kind of covers a number of areas really, from some of our more security and mechanical features through to kind of capabilities that you'll see everywhere across the product as a user. A couple of really interesting ones here is around things like pass-through authentication for Snowflake. So being able to give essentially down to the row level permissioning on what content what data a user should be able to see when they're accessing their dashboards driven by Snowflake. So really exciting capability there. Embedded analytics, we've already shown a couple of examples on that, and we'll keep developing on that over the coming months with new capabilities. White labeling in the lobby area of the product. So when you first come into the product, give it your corporate branding across the product. You can already achieve that largely in the workbooks, but we want that in the lobby as well. And then some of the exporting capabilities, we already have export to CSV. Martin showed a little bit of kind of CSV in and out, and Excel in and out, and this is kind of completing some of the capabilities there. And moving on, we'll add in export to PDF. One of those kind of capabilities that's just necessary sometimes to be able to have content that you can take away in the right kind of format. And then building on top of that, we're also looking at how you can build in more scheduling and workflow activities around Astrato. So whether that's things like data-driven actions or events, or having something sent to you on a given schedule, and integration with other vendors as well. So really, really big and exciting area for us to focus some time on here. And then a final thing on making sure we support all of our customers' authentication needs in terms of bringing in, whether it's things like SAML or Azure AD, all of those capabilities will be supported through the product. Okay, so on the visualization side, a couple of really interesting things. Martin alluded to trend lines, and this is the continuation of that as well in terms of forecasting, being able to look a little further ahead with some basic forecasting methods in some of the visualizations. Being able to filter and be able to track what filters are applicable in a given sheet is something we're adding as well, so you'll be able to see what's been applied, and so that you can change some of those values as well. And the third one in the short term, this is another really interesting one that's leveraging some of the capabilities of Snowflake. We refer to it as time travel. It's the ability to have certain visualizations look at a previous state of the data in your data warehouse. So if you want to see a comparison essentially between what your data is today and what it was last week or the month before, Snowflake has support for that in its queries, and we're going to apply that to some of our visualizations in a pretty smart way as well. Beyond that, we're looking into more capabilities like richness of features, essentially. So being able to apply filters onto to measures, building out some of the visualizations around pivot tables. We have some capabilities for input fields that's going to help the user experience be able to add data into tables. So if you need to allow users to create certain values to augment the data that's already there, then we're going to give an experience in the user in the UI to help with that. And then onwards, looking at how we can improve the way you can work with dates and sort of get date groupings in visualizations, and then onwards into fulfilling all of the visualization needs that customers ask for. And again, this is where feedback really helps us pick the right things to do first. So we'll definitely looking to connect with as many of you as possible on that. And then finally, I'll just wrap up on the data workflow side. So this is really focusing on how do we prepare data ready for building the workbooks on top of. So you might have seen a little hint of it in one of Martin's demos when he showed CSV. The next step from that is inline data. So if you just want to type a few kind of key numbers in as part of your data onboarding, we'll let you do that through the product as well. And then the big area that's really going to allow a lot more power is allowing some more advanced measures in both the data view editor, but also in the UI as well. So you can create more advanced measures, but also doing that in a way that's really straightforward for users to consume. Going a little bit further out, we're looking at how we can help users understand when they make a change in their data model, what would be the effects. So if you change your data connection, what tables we're relying on that connection, for example. And that will also help us with things like data lineage going forward. We also have some interesting concepts around how we can use bring kind of more exploratory data use cases when you're preparing the data view in Astrato. So how you can, rather than start with building a sheet and a dashboard, how you can just quickly explore the data before you get to that point. We're looking at additional connections to other data sources as well, such as Dremio, which will be really interesting in terms of the scope that tool supports, a very different type of approach, but we're looking at how we can support that. And then onward again into some great use cases around profiling data to help the data wrangler essentially understand it as they're bringing it into the product, and delivering some more advanced writeback features from some of the capabilities again that we've proven out with success with Vizlib as well. So very kind of like lots of detail, lots of kind of really exciting projects. I'm definitely keen to hear feedback, as we're not set in stone. We can help change these as we go around. So I think that's it from me, and back over to Martin, I guess, to start wrapping us up.
We have a question from the audience, and I think actually I'm going to pass it on to you, because I think you're the one with the most Power BI experience here in the gang. So somebody says, if they felt, yeah, exactly, Bilkis, thank you for the question. So if you observed limitation measure parts, so whenever you couldn't go far, you had the DAX expression language, which probably made Power BI so super duper powerful. What's the DAX expression language in the world of Astrato?
Good question. So I think the DAX is really interesting. You're right. It gives you lots of power, but it's a very technically kind of cumbersome approach to solving a problem. What we're looking to do is allow the expressions to be added as part of your data view, as well as in the UI. So it'd be interesting to know what type of challenges you were trying to solve with creating measures. We process all of our logic, in the data warehouse. It's all being translated through to SQL queries ultimately. So we want to make sure that we're able to cover, the vast majority of scenarios that we see customers pick up. We also have some really interesting developments in our engine to help support that as well. But yeah, I don't know if that answers the exact question. I probably need to drill into the challenges there.
So yeah, I think the answer, I guess, to this is like, worst case, you can always use SQL, and SQL, I think, is very powerful, if not more, than DAX. I would like to add here that in the world of Power BI, the DAX expression language is limited when it comes to live querying. So it prerequisites you to copy the data into a Power BI data model to be able to use it. Wonderful. So 2 questions. One is for Alex, and one is a quick one for you, Joe. Like, what does long-term mean?
Good question.
I love it. I love elastic roadmaps.
So I mentioned up front, short-term is things we're on already. These will be things coming out in the coming month, weeks, certainly less than 6 weeks. Medium is out a couple of months ahead of us. I think long-term is sort of 6 months-ish. I think some of those things might not be you get it right the first time and it's all in one go. It might be a little bit over time, but certainly that's our perspective on where we expect to land content from the roadmap.
Cool. And then last one from Mark Singleton, and maybe Alex, you can take that one. So ClickHouse, and probably also Tableau and others have the ability to do something like called alternative dimensions and measures, where you can basically click on the axis title and then flip it to another measure or dimension you would like, which is exploratory, but in a very constrained way, so it doesn't overwhelm the user, but still gives them the ability to get more power from what is, other than that, just a normal static report. How do we think about it?
So we have, I would say, 2 different approaches to it, and I think it also depends on the user groups. So in Vizlib, we also have what we call the custom report for Click, which has been an extremely powerful object that allows user to very easily kind of drop in different dimensions and fields and kind of create a either a table or a visualization from sort of a preset number of things. So we have been toying around of ideas of kind of having a mode where a user can always drop into a custom report mode based on an already pre-existing visualization, and then use that as a baseline, because a lot of the times perhaps it's not just enough of switching a dimension and a measure. I think that might answer the question that you have here and now, but you might want to even flip the visualization type. Perhaps I'm no longer interested in the trend of a line chart. Perhaps I want to do comparisons in a bar chart. And at that point, I think the just being able to flip available dimensions and measures becomes a little bit limited. So we are looking to support the more advanced use case. But with that said, there is a use case for the novice user to very quickly be able to push a little button to either cycle through a group of dimensions or be able to switch out different dimensions. So that is definitely something that we haven't actually highlighted here because we don't consider it a major feature for implementation. So in terms of time, so we can ship it very fast. So that is definitely something that we are looking to do.
So just some 2 cents also from my side, or 2.5 cents now adjusted for inflation. The concept that Alex has shown, the action, that any kind of click on the analytics on the dashboard or on a chart can be translated into action. So the vision is that if you click on the title of a dimension, you can then trigger it to swap the dimension to something else. It could swap the dimension to something else and even change the chart type, even change the axis limit, or maybe even show and hide objects on the right on the periphery that may or may not support the analytics there. So that's a little bit, that's the more advanced version of it. What a long-winded answer to something where, yes, we'll do so, Mark. But we always want to share a little bit, not just our passion, how we're thinking about it as well, in terms of where it can become really, really valuable. Cool. Wonderful. This has been exciting, informal. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Log into Astrato, sign up on the community, be part of this. It's a very, very exciting journey. We have... how do you call this? The Snow Summit in June. So we have a lot of very important roadmap Snowflake items, time travel and so on, that we'll be shipping. And other than that, you've seen the Vizlib journey. For those of you who know us for a long while, trust me, this one's going to be not just double, triple, but I think 10 times as exciting and big. So
yeah, and we're definitely not a replay. We're very much live. So
prove it, Alex. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Tune in and speak to you hopefully in person somewhere in the world in the next couple of months. Bye, guys. Thank you.